My name is Sunflower, and I'm a community health nurse here in beautiful Lilliwaup, Washington. Today, I would like to have a conversation regarding our older loved ones and the effects of COVID-19 in relation to loneliness. Is social isolation harming more than the virus itself? There exists a mix of camaraderie and apprehension as we healthcare providers work quickly to plan and implement change to current practice, organize multidisciplinary teams to put together COVID units, put new policies in place as well as new trainings, and this is happening at a rate never previously experienced. But during all of this, we began to notice that the prognosis for frail older adults is shocking. Frail patients have demonstrated very poor outcomes. But first, I'd like to give a quick recap of the virus, in case you haven't heard. Coronaviruses are an enveloped, single-stranded RNA virus which spreads via respiratory droplets and direct contact. Early diagnosis, proper isolation, hand washing, and PPE measures are important to prevent the spread of infection. The incubation period is typically 3 to 7 days, but can extend up to 14. While it is serious in upper middle-aged, advanced age and frail adults having additional comorbidities pose a significant risk factor for severe response. Comorbidities means having additional underlying health concerns such as hypertension, dementia, or diabetes. And as if this wasn't enough, as we age, our immune system changes, becoming less effective, increasing the risk for infection. And if infection develops, this population is less likely to fight it, which means higher risk for complications, higher risk for hospitalization, and higher mortality rates. So what does this virus look like? The typical presentation is fever, shortness of breath, and dry cough, but one may also have a headache, sore throat, and muscle pain. In older adults, the presentation may be different, otherwise known as atypical presentation of illness. This is due to the changes going on in the brain and bodies of these adults. GI problems with nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may present. They may have low blood pressure related to sepsis, decreased ability to smell and taste, and many older adults already have issues with temperature regulation, so therefore they may not even have a fever. We may also notice increased confusion, disorientation, apathy, delirium, and agitation. And it is very important to keep a close eye on this population as their symptoms change and decline very, very quickly. A loss of appetite leads to decreased fluid intake, which leads to fatigue and exhaustion, which leads to functional decline. And that increases the risk of falls and the risk of injury related to falls. Mortality data indicate a risk of mortality of 3.6% for adults in their 60s, which increases to 8% and 14.8% for adults in their 70s and over 80s. Therefore, it is obviously recommended globally that this older population includes social isolation. But let's talk about loneliness. Loneliness is a complex, subjective emotion experienced as a feeling of anxiety and dissatisfaction associated with a lack of connectedness and a deficit between the actual and desired quality and quantity of social engagement. The main outcomes from social distancing are anxiety, depression, poor sleep quality, and physical inactivity during isolation. Mental and physical health in our older adults are negatively affected. We know that loneliness is a real risk factor to the health and well-being of all people, and even in the best of times, older people can be more vulnerable. Social circles can decline with aging due to factors such as the development of a long-term condition and deteriorating health, the death of their friends, their loved ones, their life partner. So older people may have fewer closer relationships and may already be more likely to live alone. Not only does social isolation and loneliness increase older people's risk for anxiety and depression, but loneliness is associated with chronic health conditions that increase risk of mortality. Conditions such as cardiovascular disease, obesity, lung diseases, diabetes, and stroke. Additionally, it has been long acknowledged that chronic perceived isolation is characterized by impairments in attention, cognition, affect, and behavior, and these take a toll on morbidity and mortality. So let's break down our older population into subgroups. Let's recognize the older population who was previously active and had not been socially isolated and lonely. They may be disproportionately affected because of the removal of their normal social contacts, which may have occurred during grocery shopping, attending community groups and places of worship, and other day-to-day activities. This creates the possibility that these previously vigorous older adults are becoming increasingly frail due to decreased activities, especially walking, and are now leading an enforced sedentary lifestyle, which will likely impact their mobility and overall well-being. How about the continued impact on older adults who do not have friends or family members and rely solely on social care? This population may feel further isolated, especially when services become disrupted. And then we have the next population of those residing in residential care homes, and their friends and their family members are all turned away and not currently allowed to visit. Therefore, there is an urgent need to support our older adults to mitigate the negative impacts on their physical and mental health from social isolation and ageist discourses around COVID-19. Isolation can and will very likely contribute to feelings of worthlessness, a sense of being burdensome, and of having no value. These factors, when considered in relation to current social restrictions, make older people particularly vulnerable. We must support our older population to have and to retain their connectedness with others, to better enable a sense of belonging. But how do we do this? There are many COVID-19 social support programs being created nationwide. They are popping up all over, and most of these are aimed at combating loneliness and isolation. The programs are social check-in phone calls, which maintain connectivity while offering other resources as needed. These regular, meaningful telephone conversations help to ensure mental, social, and physical health needs are met, and the older people know how to ask for and how to access help if needed. Other strategies are online virtual support groups. However, the success of either of these ideas depends on whether or not a person is capable of accessing them. If a person is hard of hearing or has vision loss, how are they able to talk on the phone? How are they able to find the phone? And if a person knows how or is physically capable of navigating technology, many older adults do not know how to navigate technology. A person with arthritis in their hands cannot even hold a phone nor type. So my personal suggestion, regardless of your loved one's living environment, I would like to see small in-person visits, 2 to 3 people maybe, with our older loved ones, outside, distance with PPEs for 30 minutes. I feel that this tiny exposure to be far safer than the negative effects of isolation and loneliness. Nursing homes and assisted living facilities can arrange small meetings by appointment only if they like. Either way, there are no solid, clear-cut answers. Look at your loved one. What are their limitations? What are they able to do? What do they need? What would benefit them while keeping them safe? Discuss this with their care team and make a plan. Take care of them. They are fragile and beautiful.